Episode 5 of The Mandalorian is here, and the opening to the episode was so awesomely cheesy, like an 80s action movie. I absolutely loved it, especially like the end when the bounty hunter that's chasing the Mandalorian gets bloated it up. The scream and the way it all fades together, and it reminded me of like, you know, cheesy action movies from the 80s, low budget nonsense that was just pumped out. And also the way a lot of death scenes happen in spaghetti westerns. When the hero of the story shoots the bad guy, they go, ugh, or give out a yell and just fall to their death. That's what it reminded me of. Anyway, this episode, I'm not going to say the episodes keep getting better, but they continue to impress in their own ways, and they're consistent. I think that's the best word to describe it. They're consistent. Consistently good. And this episode is called The Gunslinger. There's a lot of gunplay in this episode. A lot of shoot first, ask questions later. So the Mandalorian is low on fuel. His ship is damaged after this dogfight in space that he just had with this other bounty hunter. He ends up landing in Mos Eisley. We see a lot of familiar things. See the hangars. We see the streets of Mos Eisley. We even see the cantina. And I loved seeing Mos Eisley post-Empire, right? The Empire has fallen, there's no presence of the Empire there anymore. Maybe it's even more lawless than it used to be, but the once loud and packed and vibrant and upbeat cantina that we had in A New Hope has been reduced to a few people in the bar, no music, a droid serving drinks now. I really liked seeing what Mos Eisley and the cantina has turned into post-Empire. Anyway, yeah, this entire kind of world-building post-Empire of Mos Eisley, I absolutely loved to see the change in this location since the last time we saw it. There's a lot of things that we're familiar with packed into this episode. Like I said, the cantina. There's also Tusken Raiders. There's also pit droids. And it's fun to see those things. It didn't feel like too in your face, just, you know, a part of the universe. When the Mandalorian lands in Mos Eisley, the person that is taking care of the hangar, they have a history between them. You don't know that at first, but after a few lines of dialogue, you learn that. This person is played by Amy Sedaris. And I grew up watching Strangers with Candy. I grew up watching Amy Sedaris. And I'm worried that this is going to happen with Bill Burr as well. I could not get like Strangers with Candy, that kind of stuff out of my head when I was watching Amy Sedaris, because she just seemed like she was playing Amy Sedaris. And that's probably without a doubt my own issue. Most people, you know, might recognize her but not have seen her in things from the past like that. Might not have seen her in her new stuff. And I don't know if I liked Amy Sedaris in this, to tell you the truth. It's not that it took me out of the show. It just didn't feel like a good fit to me. And I don't really know how to justify that statement. I did like how when she found out that the Mandalorian had a kid on board, this kid comes walking off of the Mandalorian ship. I liked when she found that out. She wanted to take care of the kid. You just thought it was going to be for, you know, being a good person with a kind heart. But no, she's going to charge more for taking care of this kid. I thought that was a fun scene between the kid and Amy Sedaris' character. I can't remember if her name was ever mentioned. I think it was, but I can't remember. Anyway, so the Mandalorian goes to the cantina. He's looking for work. The droid says there's no work left to be had in Tatooine for a bounty hunter. But there's kind of a young kid, a young man who's sitting in the same booth that Han Solo once sat in, and he's sitting there with some swagger of Han Solo, his legs up on the table like Han Solo. It was very on the nose. And I kept looking for, you know, to tell you the truth, the first thing that I looked for when I saw him sitting there, I looked for a blaster mark on the wall. There is no blaster mark on the wall from what I remember. And the reason I'm looking for that is any evidence of Greedo firing. And I cannot imagine that the cantina goes over with some spackle and paste and paints the wall once a blaster is fired there. It's a pretty dirty spot, right? So that was the first thing that I looked at. At first, I did not like this character. I did not like this kid character. He reminded me of Danny Zuko. He was playing up the Han Solo, and obviously he probably doesn't know who Han Solo is, but he was playing this Han Solo-ish guy for the audience. And at first I thought that was too on the nose and I didn't really care for it. But then as the episode progressed, I thought about that initial introduction of him, and that's kind of how a try too hard would act, right? A wannabe tough guy. That's exactly how somebody like that would act when this is their first job. They're young, they're inexperienced, they're trying to impress. We've all seen kids act like that before, right? Hell, we've seen adults act like that. And once we learn more about the character, I really like this introduction because that is absolutely what it is. He's trying to impress. He's a tryhard. So we find out that the guy has a bounty. The bounty that he's trying to get rid of is a mercenary that the Mandalorian has heard of. Turns out this is the kid's first job. He's trying to get into the Bounty Hunter Guild. The Mandalorian agrees to help him out, but he's going to take all of the money. The kid brings a couple speeders. One of them was a swoop bike, right? I know him from Shadows of the Empire. I think it was. The Mandalorian and this kid are heading out to where the bounty is located, so they think. They're crossing a lot of desert, and they run across some Tusken Raiders, and they negotiate for safe passage across their land. I like this moment for a few reasons. We learn that kind of the Tusken Raiders are the natives of this area. We also learn that there's some kind of, I don't know if this is something that's been in canon or in legends or whatnot, but there's sign language that the Tusken Raiders understand, or maybe it's their own language, their own sign language. I was half expecting the Mandalorian to just start going like, like yelling like a Tusken Raider and trying to communicate. I'm glad that didn't happen. I liked the sign language of it all. I liked all that kind of stuff. I don't. Is there a basic sign language, kind of like a basic version of sign language in Star Wars? I really don't know, but I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really neat. From kind of this moment on, I through and through loved it. The Mandalorian and the kid come across a dewback with the rider still attached, like by his boot, just being dragged across the desert. They go to investigate. The dead bounty hunter that's being dragged has a fob in his hand and is beeping very, very fast. The Mandalorian realizes that, you know, the bounty, that the person that they've been looking for, this mercenary that has a bounty on her head, is right around there and he needs to get out. So they come under sniper fire. The Mandalorian retreats over a dune with the kid, and they're kind of waiting it out. They're going to wait until nightfall to move towards the target to give themselves more cover and to utilize these kind of flares that will blind the mercenary that they're hunting if she's looking down a scope with any thermal or night vision scope or whatnot. I feel like I've seen this in something. I don't know if, for whatever reason, I feel like I've seen it in a World War II movie where they're waiting for nightfall to make their move and they're just waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm sure somebody will bring it up in the comment section. Anyway, long story short, it's nighttime. They start making their move towards the target, and as they're doing it, they shoot flares in the sky which blind the target. Eventually, they capture her. They have her in custody. They only have one speeder bike, so the Mandalorian agrees to go get the dewback and bring it back, so they have multiple rides and they can transport all three of them. But this kind of psychological head game that the target starts to play with the kid is really interesting. She's trying to get him to turn on the Mandalorian. The captor is kind of showing some empathy, or pretending to show some empathy and sympathy for this kid, and wanting to help this kid, so it seems. And this whole time I'm thinking that he's gonna buy it, because he's kind of a dumb kid, right? This Danny Zuko, wannabe tough guy, Cantina, Han Solo, try too hard, right? And I thought he was gonna be dumb and take the bait. But through this entire kind of monologue that this target, that this mercenary has as she's captured with binders on, it does fuel the kid's inevitable decision to turn against the Mandalorian. But he also realizes that, you know, if he takes these binders off this mercenary, he's a dead man. So he takes all the information in that he needs and then shoots her. Just boom. I love the moment because it was so unexpected. I thought this dummy was gonna take the bait, but it was a really great moment for that little twist. That moment where this character goes from being kind of a try too hard to somebody who is maybe a little more pragmatic than I initially thought. It doesn't seem like he's in it for the money, he's in it for the status, he's in it for the legendary status and an entrance into the Bounty Hunter Guild. Long story short, the Mandalorian comes back, sees the body of the mercenary, goes back to his ship. The kid's there with Baby Yoda and Amy Sedaris' character. There's a standoff. The Mandalorian uses one of those flares that they used earlier to evade the sniper fire. He jukes, he shoots the kid, gets the baby. I thought the standoff was great. I thought the twist where the Mandalorian had that flare, but I was wondering how he was going to get out of it. Obviously, he's going to. He had that flare behind his head. As his hands were on his head, he lit it, room went white, blinded the kid. He took care of business. Once again, I really like the pace of these episodes. because we really haven't seen the same character twice, right? The Mandalorian is constantly on the move, and every episode is kind of its own self-contained adventure, right? With new characters, new locations, and stuff like that. I really like it. I'm hoping in the next few episodes we kind of get out of needing bounty work and whatnot, and go into something maybe a little different. I don't really want every single episode to just be kind of like hunting for another bounty, hunting for another bounty, hunting for another bounty. You know what I mean? I have a feeling that's not going to be the case, but I could see that getting stale. At the very end of the episode, we see the mercenary laying there dead, the target laying there dead, that the kid shot, and we hear some boots walking up. So I don't know who this is. I'm guessing maybe Grief. I don't know. Could be Grief. Could be Bill Burr. I thought Bill Burr was going to be in this episode. He was not. So yeah, there were moments in this episode that I really loved. Some nice callbacks, or some nice kind of information, seeing the Mos Eisley Cantina, Mos Eisley as a whole, and Tatooine post-Empire with no Imperial presence, I thought that was cool. And a lot of everything from Tusken Raiders onward was great too. There's just kind of a chunk in there where I was just like, it's alright. It was okay. We got to where we needed to be. HelloGreedo. Out.